and welcome. You're watching Startup Central. I'm Nivedna Prabhu. And if tech, startups, emerging businesses and the new economy interest you, well, then this is the show you should be watching to keep a track of developments in this space. Now, we're telling the story of India's entrepreneurial ecosystem like no one else has. And do share your thoughts with us about the show and what you'd like to watch on the show at suc@etnow.tv. But before we dive into everything else, let's get started on the show with a quick check of the headlines that were tracked. After India launched Operation Sindoor against Pakistan, we're seeing some changes in investors' preferences. Now, there's an increasing interest in defense stocks. The likes of HAL, Bharat Forge, Garden Reach, Bharat Dynamics all saw pretty strong upside since the launch of the operation. And there's also significant rise in defense-based startups, such as drone companies. But what kind of policies do we need to ensure sustained growth of small-scale upcoming defense companies? The other question, how much opportunity lies in this sector? What is the scope of innovation in this space? Well, to answer all of that, we have with us Dr. Apoorva Ranjan Sharma, co-founder, MD of Venture Catalyst, to discuss all this and, of course, a lot more. Dr. Sharma, great to have you on ET Now. Thank you very much for your time. Let me begin by asking you this. Of course, has Operation Sindoor in a way influenced investor interest in indigenous defense and drone tech?
Yes, definitely. We have seen the downside of foreign dependence now, and that has increased the growth and the confidence of our own startups. We had seen startups earlier to build for Bharat. Now we are talking about startups who can secure Bharat, and that is what is currently the new talk of the town. So we are looking startups, drone startups, defense startups who can secure Bharat and who can create the next generation technologies to attack the drones coming from the other sides, and even create some of the best drones as well as defense technologies from India.
What should our viewers really understand, going forward, the opportunity as well?
So there is opportunity to create battery companies who can improve the efficiencies of these drones. We have invested in a company called Mime Electric, which has created the aluminum battery company, which is amazing. We have invested another company which has created a camera which can see from here 50 kilometers inside the border of the other side. They are like Optimized Electrotech. They were the winner of IDEX last year. We also invested in BotSync, which has created the brain of these drones, which can, it's a software which can control the efficiency of these drones as well as defense equipment. We also invested in companies like Nautical Wings, which is making the component of these drones. So there, if you divide the whole sector into multiple parts, there is opportunity today, who can create, anti-drones, systems. We are looking startups who can also create next level of intelligence for these, to make their to improve their efficiencies by bringing AI and ML technologies into the drones. So there is massive opportunities coming. We already invested in 10 companies in the recent past. And there are some companies who are already known, like Garna, already. Optimized Electrotech is very well known. Nautical. All these companies are doing their bit to make secure Bharat and to make Bharat very strong.
The new tagline clearly, but as you pointed out, you mentioned about the companies that of course you've also invested in, but what convinced you, whether we're talking of any company that you have of course in a personal capacity invested in, what really stood out? What are the key metrics? If you could tell us, based on that, how we're looking at this.
So there are, Indian innovations which are even meeting the US defense systems also. We have invested in a company, which is ethereal machine, which is even working for the US defense also. So there are innovative companies in India who are creating a lot of innovations, which is useful for, obviously, if you see now everybody is talking about drones are more important than having the fifth generation aircrafts, right? So India has an opportunity to create excellence there. And we, as early stage investors, are investing heavily into these startups. The reason why we are convinced on putting money into them is largely because they are creating moonshot ideas. When Optimized Electrotech met us, they said we have created a great image processing algorithm, and that can see through 25-kilometer inside the border, next side border, across the border. Now they can see 50-kilometer across the border, right? So that's why they got the IDEX last year award, 25 crores. So these are the kind of technologies that are coming in India. These are very innovative things which are coming in India. There is another company like Big Bang Boom, which is created, drone systems. There are a couple of companies which we are seeing, even now to invest in, who are, bringing AI and ML into improving the efficiencies of these, drones which are currently there. Whatever you're seeing, it is first or second or third generation of drones or defense equipments. In the next couple of 7 or 8 years, you will see the next level, generation of this, thing coming in out of India.
So, Dr. Sharma,
and that's where we can play a very important role.
Right. So, of course, innovation, and with that, how we've been looking at it, of course, if you compare it even to the past 5 years, we're playing out those important details on our screens as well, given the scope of this industry. But let me ask you this, have drone rules 2021 and the PLI scheme made the sector more venture capital friendly in your opinion?
Actually, that has given the advantage to a lot of startups to get business from the government. And the more the business, the more the valuation of these companies.
True.
I mean, almost every startup which I invested, they got some business or other from the government. That PLI scheme has really helped these startups, and they are very happy about it. But of course, there is some reforms required on the procurement side. Some testbed in the airspace is required to be created, because now there are larger number of companies. It requires a lot of permissions, etc., to do these tests. And then they also need, they're also looking some export enablement. So, but yes, whatever steps have been taken so far, it has boosted the confidence as well as it has boosted the business of our startups.
Are there any loopholes, if you want to shed light on that aspect of this?
Sorry?
Are there any loopholes or challenges that we're looking at?
No, I think these are the three reforms. If you have better procurement reforms, I think that's where procurement, strategy. I think that's where they need help, and export enablement. That's where they need some help, and even some more test beds can be created for these startups. That's where they need. Also for the IP protection, because now these companies are coming. I mean, like Optimized Electrotech had more than 30 patents. Now these patents in US, most of the time, these are, safe. But we need to create systems in place so that our startups' patents are recognized globally. they don't lose it otherwise. So that is also some place where we need some help. And because a lot of them have IP driven products. Even boxing has an IP. And so how do we safeguard our startups IP? So some help is required there also.
So clearly there's need to create patents as well. But from a VC lens, is India ready to build globally competitive defense tech giants? Or do you think we're still in proof of concept mode?
See, my view is, this drone and as well as, new defense equipments which are coming, right? Missile technologies, all of these places, you have an opportunity to, go beyond any other country in the world, because they are much ahead of us in aircrafts and other fighter aircrafts and other technologies, right? But missile, we are one of the best in the world already. And if we get some these good drone technologies developed in India, which in the last 3-4 years I'm seeing amazing companies coming out of India, right? You will see some differentiated changes coming out of the technologies coming out of India. So that will give us an edge over the world. And that's why we are investing. And there are a lot of defense funds, by the way. I want to tell you, I know at least 3 new funds which are coming dedicated to invest in the defense area. So India has a lot of VCs, a lot of investors have recognized the potential of defense startups in India, as well as drone startups. And there is also, you have to see that Idea Forge got for an IPO. So there is also a ready market to create exits for the investors, right? Correct. So the proof is, and the track is already built, right? That's why you see there are dedicated defense funds also coming in collaboration with Israeli, experts. I know a couple of them, so I can see a good future for defense and drone startups in India. You will see some unicorns and sunicorns. Sunicorns, there are already some of the sunicorns there. You'll find many unicorns coming out of India in different sectors.
So basically, in a nutshell, the track has been laid, is what you say, but the navigation is what we'll be looking at in the future. But it's very interesting that you point that out, because obviously the other aspect would be, how do you assess market readiness for deep tech defense innovations?
See, market readiness is basically, when, as I said earlier, most of these, like for example, Garna, they got good government contracts.
Correct.
Earlier, they got a lot of private contracts also, right? A lot of export enablement is also happening. Out of India also, they are getting business, right? So there are markets which is dominant by the US and other countries, but there are markets where they also need this kind of equipments. So the market readiness, with the current scenario, global scenario, it is not only India which is having the this situation like war-like situations. There are many parts in the world where they want to increase or upgrade their defense requirements, right? So that creates the readiness of the market. That increase the largeness of the market. Obviously, Indian startups, those who are highly innovative, they are also targeting outside India, not just Indian market.
Dr. Sharma, given in the capacity with how you're sharing your insights with us, one of the other questions would be, how important is founder background? The tech versus ex-forces in your defense investment thesis, if I may say so.
A founder's background is very important. And, so many times what happens, these founders which come to us, we always, because in this whole startup business, founder background is 30% of the success. That matters. And that is why we do background checks, and most of the time these founders have worked in DRDO, or there are a lot of people are coming in, they're working in international companies also, and they have exposure, worked in those companies, and they come and set up the startups in India. So founder background is, without that we don't invest. Of course, we are getting it. That's why we are investing in it. And there is enough number of startups who have good pedigree of founders, and the names of these companies whom I just taken, you can see these founders are amazing. They have created, they come with a good pedigree, and they are there for long term, not just taking the money and not justifying. They are there for creating great product out of it, and they come with the R&D background. Most of the time, there is a balance of there is one R&D guy, one person with a sales background. Most of the time, this combination is coming to us.
Lethal combo that has worked for our defense startups as well is how you're putting that into perspective. But Dr. Sharma, before I let you go, given the aspect of what you said, what we're looking at today is the tagline of secure. Of course, there is the push for Atmanirbhar Bharat from the government's end. But how do you see public-private partnerships evolving to support defense tech startups in your perspective?
I tell you, this is the next step to make these companies large. And if you see the US defense scenario or US defense startup ecosystem, you will find lots of public partnerships there. India will definitely, if you look into this Garna, your example which you gave, there is a 1% small percentage of public partnership there also, right? So you will find these startups have understood the value of it. I'm sure this will increase because end of the day, HAL, which is one of the biggest player, one of the good player on this, they also, are open for partnerships with the startups. A lot of them are experimenting. A lot of listed company, they are partnering and investing in the startup, by the way, right? So these partnerships of different types are happening, and they are leveraging their network, their connection, their learnings to develop these startups big. And this collaboration is only which is working right now. Otherwise, it is for a small startup, even if it's a great pedigree, sometimes very difficult to understand how to get larger business, how to sort of go to the export market. So only by these large ticket investors and large collaborations which are happening by listed companies and by even the government organizations, collaborations which is happening, this is happening. This is the enablement. They can play a very important role there. I think it should increase.
Okay.
And if it increases, you will see much more number of companies coming out of India.
All right. And that is, of course, extremely positive for the sector. And in a nutshell, it's the collaboration that's giving momentum to this synergy that we're looking at. But Dr. Sharma, on that note, I want to thank you very much for joining us here on ET Now, sharing with us your perspective and giving us your time as well. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to more that we are tracking here on Startup Central. We, in fact, caught up with Hitesh Oberoi, MD and CEO, Info Edge India, to know about the company's 1,000 crore investment plan in the coming years. Let's listen to the excerpt.
Latest news that you are looking at 1,000 crore fund. I'm assuming that this 1,000 crore would be another fund where you would be looking at making fresh investments. How did you arrive at this number of 1,000 crore, and what could be the shelf life of this fund? And minus this 1,000 crore, what happens to cash in the balance sheet?
So, we are sitting on around, I think last I checked, we had about 4,800 crores of cash, between Naukri, between Info Edge and our subsidiary companies. We, of course, need to deploy this cash productively. There is some cash we need for operations and for rainy days. And if there is an acquisition opportunity which comes our way. Outside that, of course, we give dividends to shareholders. We just announced a dividend. We upped the dividend this year. But after that also, there's a lot of cash which is left and which can be deployed. We have been very successful at, spotting companies early. So we continue to make early stage investments. And normally the fund life is long, is like 10+2 or 12+2 in most of the funds we sort of do, because it takes a long time for a company to make it in India. It's not as if you get a company making it really big in 3 or 4 years. Often it takes 10 or 12 years for companies to make it. Normally, when we announce a fund, it takes 3 or 4 years to deploy the capital. in these to find these companies and to do the first round, and then there are follow-on rounds going forward. In the more successful companies, we do follow-ons and so on and so forth. So that's how this all works. So we've approved 1,000 crores of fresh investments, and these will be deployed. I suspect over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years.
The market and is expected to be the mega trend, and that's what Nazara Tech believes. A joint MD and CEO Nitish Mittersain has to say the same about what their growth potential is. Let's listen in.
If you see our esports business is about 217 crores in Q4, which is out of 520 crores, so about 40% or thereabout. I think our esports business is an exciting space to be. We're dominating the market in that space in India through our subsidiary Nodwin Gaming. Sports is a mega trend in the years to come, and to be a dominant player in that space is going to be very fruitful. Bazi, which is a dominant skill-based real money gaming player poker platform in India. They own 60 to 70% market share and continue to aggressively grow the company. The company's been growing revenues at a 30-40% year on year, even post the GST impact of October 23. So I think they're on a fantastic track. Again, because this is a market leader, I think today they are investing very aggressively in brand building, which is why you're seeing some losses being posted. But we believe this will become a large cash generator for us in the next 2-3 years.
All right, moving on to an exclusive. Founders of Unacademy are stepping down from their roles as CEO and MD. Sumita Karir joins with more details as to what we're picking up. Listen in.
Yeah, that's what sources are suggesting, that Unacademy founder Gaurav Munjal is looking at stepping down from the CEO's role. Of course, we're also hearing that co-founder Roman Seni is all set to leave his role of actively managing the edtech firm, and that could happen over at least the next 3 to 4 months is what sources are telling us. In fact, there is another founder, Himesh Singh, who's also left. Unacademy's CTO also left last year. Remember this move of the founders leaving or stepping down? Well, this has been happening. This discussion has been happening with the company's shareholders in recent past. The contours and the timeline of departure of these executives, that's set to be decided over a period of the next 3 to 4 months. Remember, Unacademy is looking at pivoting away from online test prep to offline coaching centers, and that move came about after the downturn that was seen overall for online learning in the post-pandemic era. Unacademy of late has been recently focusing on AirLearn. That's essentially its affordable language learning platform, and that plan to pivot towards AirLearn that was discussed at the firm's Founders Day event that happened in December. And at that event, the company's top leadership, its investors were all present. So significant move coming in so far as the move of founders is concerned on them either stepping down or parting ways with the company is concerned.
Moving on, health tech platform Prato has expanded its footprint to Middle East and aims to serve the Indian diaspora there. Listen in to Shashank ND, co-founder Prato, on the recent foray.
Dubai users are already, Dubai population are already using Prato's services on an annual basis. So it's been a good last few quarters being live in the UAE and serving the population of these 3 cities of UAE. So we've, of course, launched our consumer services in India and UAE now, whereas our B2B services, which are to doctors, we provide software to doctors in over 20 countries. But from a consumer standpoint, from a consumer brand standpoint, and using our apps, now we're live in India, and now the second country is going to be UAE. I think UAE offers us a market which is, I would say, from a per capita income standpoint, a higher one from India. And so the focus of Prato is to launch in more developed countries going forward as well. So this is in that direction. And also in UAE, we have a very large Indian diaspora. There's a very large Indian diaspora that's already aware of Prato as a brand. And so a common theme in our global expansion will be to target this diaspora and spread from there. The third aspect is also about providers and doctors. A lot of overlap between doctors who practice in India and then have now shifted location to the Middle East. So given this demography of the Middle East being developed, as well as having the Indian diaspora both on the consumer and provider side, it gave us the perfect place to expand our consumer offering to. But I'll also share that UAE is just the first pit stop in more countries that Practo's consumer offerings will expand into going forward.
Well, and with that, it's curtains down on this edition of Startup Central. Remember, you can write to us on suc@etnow.tv. And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you very much for watching.